would stand in the circle, and while they were in the circle, they would then start conjuring the spirits that they want to have a communication with. But this circle was very important for them blocking other spirits from coming into the circle. Okay? So you had this 5-point star, and remember, the ZCC badge, what is it? It's a 5-point star. Within the pentagram, they have earthly elements that are ascribed to them. Fire, earth, wind, and what. You will always find that there is a demonic figure within all these 5 points. Gods like Shiva, which are the gods of destruction, fire. We all know about water spirits. We know about river water spirits and all this. Third episode of why ZCC is not a church. And on this particular video, we're going to be talking about this tweet that got people extremely heated, particularly about the origin of the ZCC church. Put up the post right here, and I'm going to be scrolling down this thread that he made over here. He is giving a history according to his account. Let me just give a disclaimer here, okay? I don't know if what he's saying is true or what, but there is a certain thing that I want to say about what he is saying at the end of this particular tweet, particularly about why ZCC is not what? It's not a church. Now, let us see this comments that he made, or this thread. He says, one day we need to talk about the Christian lapels worn by ZCC and its true origin. Ask why it is still relevant today, and why should it even be relevant at all. Now, the part about Christian, not really. We don't know them. Let's just be very clear. A Christian is a person who identifies with Christ. So in that word Christian, there is Christ, the Messiah that was sent to die and be a replacement for mankind to reconcile us back to God. That's what we believe. So you call yourself a Christian when you reconcile yourself to that sacrifice that the Messiah did. And ZCC people, they don't fall under that bracket. They don't fall under that bracket. I'll explain as we go. Particular 2 badges. And the thread starts like this. Basically, it says, during colonial era in South Africa in the 1800s, whites ruled with church missionaries to some extent. So basically what he is saying in this thread, I'm going to move it very slowly. You can pause it and read parts of it. I don't want to have to read too much because nakabala slow. I read a bit what? Slow. Let's know our strengths. Yes, I read slow. It's not a crime. Just means me when I'm reading one word, words start flying in front of me. It's not my fault. It's not my fault that words fly into my eyes. Yeah, I love life too much. This particular particularly this part here, it says, people started making this associate themselves to this thing. It says these lapels were not easy to get. You had to write as an essay of a sort or get vouched for by a preacher, according to what he says, or a missionary worker. That I don't even know if that is true. There's a part here where he says that the lapels enabled an African to walk freely or to operate a business of a sort. I don't know how true that part is. He says lapels were worn by Amakhola, believers basically. And so he then gives an example of what the lapels used to look like. Now bear in mind, we don't know if if these things are really so. His direction is to say that these lapels are the same as where the badge of the ZCC came from. He says, nevertheless, the church of Shembe had a lapel, then also the ZCC church came about, and these lapels are sadly rooted in classism, oppression, and rooted in colonial rule. You understand? So his idea is that, so we are now in democracy and all that kind of stuff. So why should we still be associating ourselves to these things? That's his thing. I have a different direction. Stay tuned. I'll tell you what that direction is. So basically, he then addresses where does this entire discussion come from, with the whole thing about it. There's a DA leader who was supposedly wearing I guess a DA cap with a badge, which is a set state thing. But for me, personally, I think that's not even the direction to even be going about. If they claim to be Christian, let them find a place in the Bible where Christians, I'm not talking about the Old Testament, we're talking about the New Testament Christian, is told to have a badge. And for their church, they claim that the badge is for protection. That's an insult. Yeah, that's an insult to the doctrine of God. And I've explained previously when we spoke about the origin of the badge, and when we were talking about the badge being almost very closely identified to satanic worship. These are political, you see here, this is political reasons. Let's deal with the spiritual reasons, because these ones you can debate. Is it true, is it not true? Personally, not interested. Whether there was colonialism, whatnot. You like your badge, wear your badge. But let me tell you the spiritual part about that badge. Is that in Satanism, they would draw the circle. Then before they do conjuring, they conjure a spirit. They would stand in the circle, and while they were in the circle, they would then start conjuring the spirits that they want to have a communication with. But this circle was very important for them blocking other spirits from coming into the circle. Okay? So you had this 5-point star, and remember, the ZCC badge, what is it? It's a 5-point star. Okay? So you have the 5-point star, and it was used. Until they claim they use it for protection. Fine, no problem. See why ZCC is not a Christian church. That badge was not meant for that. That entire hajez of how Satan used to use this thing is they used to use it to conjure the spirits, but then to protect them from spirits outside of the circle. So this then addressed something, is that what spirit did you call? Because basically when you were in communication, therefore, there was a spirit you were called into the circle. But at the same time, there was a spirit that you were trying to block outside of the circle. Now, the question is not even what spirit is outside the circle, which might try to attack you or use you or possess you. That's not even the question. That one, you can put it aside. The question is, what spirit did you bring into the circle? That's the question we asked on the video about the origin of the badge. When we look at these origins that come from Satanism, where you see they use that circle and this 5-point star in order for them to conjure a spirit into the circle, communicate with that spirit, but at the same time, they would then use it to repel other spirits outside of the ZCC church. They say they use it for protection. So I wanted to show what protection. They're using it for protection from the spirit that they know are outside, but which spirit do they bring in? Which the Bible allows. The Bible says nothing about us bringing a spirit into a circle. Now, because they don't tell you that there's a spirit you've called into a circle by wearing the badge, claiming that it's for protection, that is the deception that you are willing to accept. There is a spirit behind the badge. That's the one thing we know for sure, is that the 5-point star within the pentagram, they have elements, earthly elements that are ascribed to them. Fire, earth, wind, and what. If you go back into all these ideas, you will always find that there is a demonic figure within all these 5 points. Gods like Shiva, which are the gods of destruction, fire, the gods of judgment, deities of judgment. There you have it, demonic figures that are ascribed for the fire aspect or the destructive aspect. We all know about water spirits. We know about river water spirits and all these things that happen. We know about these mermaid spirits that people submit themselves for wealth, to attract wealth and all these things. Water spirits. So in the 5 points, it addresses a lot more than just what you are thinking. It addresses a whole lot more. This shows you ZCC is not a Christian. It's not a church at all. Not even Christian. Don't even put Christian. ZCC is not a church at all. Why? Because in that 5-point star there, they are entertaining Satanism. They are entertaining Wicca. They are entertaining the ritual aspects behind the spirits which communicate through that. Which is what? The spirits of the water. The spirits of the air, the spirits of the fire, the judgment spirits. But people have avoided that. They have avoided the witchcraft aspect of that badge. So, because they've avoided the witchcraft aspect of the badge, they can talk about all these other things, but they've forgotten the one thing that's there. But we can only highlight these things. Spirituality Show, we do daily Christian commentary videos. So while people are talking about the political, they must remember there is a much dangerous one, which is the spiritual one, where people are aligning themselves to spiritual beings that they know nothing about. They are aligning themselves to spiritual beings, which in that badge, while you are talking about politics, fine. In that same badge, while you are talking the political one, remember the spiritual.